Hello, thank you for joining me. This is another short video to support other autistic individuals. I'm just going to talk a little bit about autism as a label, because I've read this a few times, and I remember I was on a waiting list for my diagnostic interview. This is back in England, this is northwest England with the NHS. So I currently live in Scotland now, and back in England I was waiting for 2 years for my diagnostic interview. When I got the diagnostic interview, it was 5 hours long, and so I suspected autism 2 years before that interview. And I do remember talking to 3 individuals, not all at the same time. We weren't all in the same room, the 4 of us, and I remember all 3 of them, this is while I was waiting for my diagnostic interview, all 3 of them basically said, well, I was talking about me possibly being autistic, and their response was, I think I could be autistic, but I'm not really interested in knowing. I don't care, and I don't like labels, they said. Seriously, all 3 of them said that. I don't like labels. So, this is my opinion, and I do understand why I suppose some individuals may view it as a label. I suppose it depends on the stage that a person's at before and when they get diagnosed with autism and after their diagnosis. I suppose it could do, there are a few things to factor in. One would be happiness, for instance. If the individual happens to be very happy and they feel settled, and then they get diagnosed with autism quite a long time later, and they didn't suspect it before, I suppose it would be easy to view the autism as a label. So that's one example, isn't it? I personally do not view autism as a label. I don't feel labelled. I don't feel ashamed in any way. I think life is too short. I think I've got a set of problems because of the type of autism that I have, but I certainly don't think I've had a label stuck on me in some way. I'm simply a professional musician with autism, so I wasn't particularly happy all that time ago. I was struggling with autism that I didn't know that I had. It's not as if I suspected it and sat back for years and thought, well, I'll get it diagnosed 20 years later. No, it wasn't that kind of thing. I just had no idea that I had autism, that I was born with it. So the autism this is me, this is what happened to me. I can't speak for other people. The autism that I didn't know that I had was making me suffer, for sure. So autism, in a nutshell, makes the individual vulnerable. But because I was walking around with autism unaware I had it, it meant that I couldn't confront it. It meant that I didn't really know or understand myself. I wasn't actually able to set boundaries, for instance. So what does that mean? It meant that I was even more vulnerable, which, when you think about it, that's quite scary, isn't it, when you think about it? It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. So, from my perspective, when I read that letter from the NHS saying, you meet the criteria for autism, Miss Jones, I felt a combination of shock, upset, anger, and also relief. I actually felt relieved, But then I had a big task ahead of me, because at that point I didn't actually know what autism really was. So a few months went by, it sunk in with me finally. I'm autistic, right? Okay, I was born with it, right? So this is the answer, this is the explanation to just about all of the problems that I've been having, which have obviously made me suffer. So then I started researching. So what I'm saying is, I'm now better off. I can still, the autism is there, I was born with it, I can't get rid of it. So I understand that, but I am better off now, because I feel more grounded. I feel as though I know who I am. I can still get anxious here and there, but I have ideas on how to deal with it and confront it now. And I feel as though I've got more control. And rather than, for instance, allowing anxiety to build and build, not just in my mind but in my body, and then make me suffer for days and days, possibly weeks and weeks, I feel as though I can actually control it. And I've also learned to finally put my own well-being first. So I think, from my perspective, and also I've become a happier person. So it's just not my way of thinking to have this diagnosis and think, oh no, I've got a label stuck on me. What does that mean for me? This is terrible. You know, it's just not my style of thinking, that's all I'm saying. And yeah, I do understand other people viewing it as a label. It just depends on your overall situation, I suppose, what's surrounding you, where you're at, your style of thinking. So I think I would say it's about accepting it, acknowledging it. I would say it's also about learning. I think regardless of age, we're all learning. It's also about embracing the autism, because people with ASD, they've been born with it, so you can't get rid of it. So that's my opinion. So it's definitely not a label. And I can confidently say I'm a lot better off now that I know that I've got the autism. And I kept it private for 3 years before I chose to tell people about the autism. Obviously I told my immediate family and a couple of close friends, but it wasn't until about 3 years after the diagnosis that I started disclosing it to other people. And it was because I suppose I didn't feel confident telling other people about it. It wasn't until I'd learned, accepted it, confronted it, and basically grown as a person, and also embraced the autism, that then gave me the confidence to tell other people about it. So there's my opinion, and thank you for watching this.